Welcome into MJT Football. I am Tony Tucker. I am joined by Joe Morley. We are without NFL Mike as he is preparing for the NFL Combine and a return from that serious knee injury. As he said, this is MJT Football. I'm Tony Tucker. That is Joe Morley. Mike on the mic, NFL Mike, is not here. But we are three friends who love talking football. We're always looking for a fourth, so go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe button. If you're listening to the audio version, come on over and subscribe on YouTube to MJT Football so that you can hit that notification bell and join us and get in the chat. There are a ton of regulars already here, a great community of people throwing out their ideas, their nonsense, their feelings, their passion for their NFL franchise. Before the mics heated up, I was talking to Joe about what the Raiders were going to do at the quarterback position. And I don't know. I hope they draft Bo Callahan. He's not a winner, Joe. His teammates don't like him.
How many people went to his birthday party, Tony?
None. None of them.
None of the teammates went to his birthday party, so of course you don't want to draft Bo. Always draft Mac no matter what, right?
Yes.
We tell people this, Tony. If you haven't seen Draft Day with Kevin Costner, you have to watch that movie. If you're a football fan, it's a great movie. Even though it's about the Cleveland Browns, it's a good movie.
Oh, it is. I call it a documentary, Joe. It's not even a film. It's a documentary. It's exactly what I would hope the draft day is like for a team. And it's why I would just love to be in the room, right? You see, like, they've gotten better at like showing inside the rooms and when they're talking. And I just think that it would be fun because when it's coming up to your pick, you probably have it narrowed down to like 2 or 3 guys. And you're getting there and you're making the pitch for your guy of why we should draft our guy. What's going on, Harrison? We do have a topic today. I didn't even get into that of the stuff we're talking about. We're talking about A.J. Brown versus Juju, and we're talking about Mike McCarthy's comments, and we will be talking about the Panthers reaching out to the Green Bay Packers to gauge their insights, gauge their interest on what they're doing with whatever. But if you're new to the program, I just want to know, and this is a little bit for Joe and a little bit for the people out there, this is the kind of person that Joe Morley is.
And I eat cold pizza off the counter. That's what I do.
Testing it out, Joe, and the drop machine does work.
There we go. I didn't even know that you put that on there, but cool. Yeah, cold pizza on the counter. Doesn't matter, Tony. If you're not eating cold pizza, you can't kick it with me.
I wake up and eat. I think this guy, the first person we're going to talk about too, also wakes up and eats cold pizza off the counter. And that is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy. And this guy is the kind of person that I think he gets to the mic and forgets that it's on, that he's the head coach of perhaps the most famous NFL football team, or I'm not even sure, or maybe he's never even, every press conference is the first time he's done a press conference. Like, he's unprepared for it. And he got to the combine and started saying, and Joe made a video about this on TikTok, the Joe Morley on TikTok. Mike McCarthy said the reason that they parted ways with Kellen Moore, and this isn't an exact quote, but was that the team wanted to run the ball more so that he could rest his defense, which doesn't make any sense because they ran the ball like top 5 in the league when they were there. Like, each running back had 200 plus carries. Then you don't even factor in third running back carries, wide receiver carries, quarterback carries. So Dallas probably ran the ball 500 plus times last year. I don't know the exact numbers. And then to go back on it, if he's switching to call plays, He didn't run the ball when he was calling plays for the Green Bay Packers. So what are you talking about, Mike McCarthy? Joe, unload on
Tony,
this.
the last 2 seasons, even with Kellen Moore as your play caller, as you want to say, they were ninth yards in rushing in both years, ninth in 2021, ninth in 2022. They were sixth in rushing attempts in the NFL this year. Sixth in rushing attempts, meaning they're running the ball already. I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, last year I understand, but last year in 2021, they were the number 2 in pass attempts, but they were still number 12 in rushing attempts. Like they've had the top offense. What was their offense this year? I can pull it up where their total overall offense, they were the number 7 offense in the NFL this year. Last year they were number 3 out under Kellen Moore. So then I was laughing about this when I heard it, Tony, because he goes, I want to run the back. I think him and Kellen Moore just didn't get along, right? And this is just their way of moving on. And I think there's part where he wants to please owner Jerry Jones just a little bit and be like, hey, we're going to go back to running the ball old school style. But that we all know old school style doesn't work anymore, Tony. The NFL is going to a pass happy offense where they want you to go up there. They want you to do what he said Kellen Moore does. Light up the scoreboard. Chicks dig the scoreboards. Chicks dig touchdowns, right? That's what they want. We want to see this. How many times me and you could turn on a game and we'll love it when there's a defensive game, right? And it's 3-0, halftime, going back and forth. But the casual fans are like, screw this, and they turn it off. They don't want to see that crap. They want to see touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And Mike McCarthy, Tony, this is what makes me laugh, and this is what you just brought up. When you were the head coach, Mike McCarthy, in Green Bay, you never ran the damn ball. And I brought this up to Tony's attention the other day. His last year in Green Bay, you were 32nd in a rushing attempts for your offense, which is what? Dead last in the NFL. And I told you, Tony, that they brought up, remember that when they brought up free Aaron Jones was the hashtag all over social media when Mike McCarthy got fired.
Yeah, Joe, I think you're right. I think the one thing that I would add that hasn't been hit on in what you were saying, or really what I've heard in mainstream media, because I'm off social media, so I only listen to the shows. I think he's trying to quietly admit that Dak Prescott isn't the guy, right? And that he's saying Kellen wants to light up the scoreboard, but at what cost? It's costing our team with all of these pass attempts. And I could see how if you want to pass the ball, if you have Aaron Rodgers and you have Devontae Adams, and at that time he still had Jordy Nelson, and he still had a lot of at his disposal to work with, right? Like I think Jermichael Finley may have still had a healthy season or two in him at that point. Like he had a lot going on. James Jones, the offense was built to pass the football. But here, when you have CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz, and your best player on the field, your most productive player is Tony Pollard, he should have been getting the ball more. We kept talking about that privately between me, you, and Mike was calling us Dak haters. The problem is that you've paid this guy to be a $50 million, $45 million a year quarterback, but he's not delivering at that level. So Mike is saying, yeah, we want to light the scoreboard up, but the real strength of our team is Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, the other D tackle there, I'm blanking on his name. Like, we need to have these guys on the field because that is where we are going to thrive, is getting this team in an advantage where they can get into the fourth quarter with a 7 to 10 point lead, pin their ears back, and go get the quarterback. So I hear him saying, Dak's just not that guy when he says we need to run the football more, because otherwise, why are you paying him $50 million in a league that overwhelmingly is becoming 60-40 pass to run the football? And you were already running the ball the six most attempts per game or whatever the stat was. So I'm hearing that the coach doesn't believe in Dak, but can't say it that way. He can't say, Kellen does want to light up the scoreboard, but he needs a guy like Justin Herbert to light up the scoreboard.
Well, and they did throw 30 interceptions as a team last year. And I think what Dak throw 15 in 11 games. So as an offense, yeah, they were number 7 in the league, but they also turned the ball over a ton. And that could be the one of the reasons that he's going after. But I agree with you. How many times late in the game did Dak you put the game on Dak and Dak made a bad decision, right? And you're like, what the hell is Dak doing? And I criticized Dak a little bit last year, and Cowboy fans got mad, and they were like, hey, he's still top guy, and you know, Mike does the same thing. Mike is a big Dak guy, but yeah, maybe he is, Tony. Maybe he is saying, but I don't. But another thing I can't agree with Mike McCarthy either is your defense is good, but they're not great, and I think the reason they are better than they were or show on paper why they're better is because you had those leads, or you could put those points on the board, and you made some teams one-dimensional where your defense was able to eat it up and just sit back there. And I'm wondering if you're in a tighter game and you're not scoring as many points as because you want to run the damn ball, how many more losses are you going to take in those short games? Because now you're running the ball and you don't have the passing game to go along with it.
Yeah, the organization just seems to be in disarray, but for the first time when they're in disarray, they actually have some talent. Because when CD was on Around the NFL podcast, they asked him, what does Dak need? And he was like, surround him with weapons. And CD was going, if you look around the other teams in the league, and he starts mentioning the 49ers. He goes, look at the 49ers. They have Debo, and they have Kittle, and they have Ayuk, and they have McCaffrey. And it's like, and they have a quarterback on a rookie deal. I know you're not a capologist, bro, but you cannot have all of those weapons and be paying your quarterback this amount of money and still field a competent defense. Like, it just doesn't, the math doesn't work out. So here, we'll move on to the second part of the Mike McCarthy thing. And the reason why I think that Mike McCarthy is saying he doesn't believe in Dak, he brought up Max Duggan's name about the combine and about the draft and how he's an intriguing prospect. Why are you even talking about a quarterback when you have a 30-year-old quarterback that we all believe is a top 12 guy that still has great years ahead of him, and you're bringing up a quarterback to draft this year that is projected to be a third-round pick? You're going to waste a third-round pick when you need wide receivers, you need a running back, you need offensive line help, and you're talking about drafting a quarterback? It doesn't make any sense. And Ayuk is not overrated. Brandon Ayuk is going to get paid, and he's going to be a number one wide receiver on one of these times. I completely disagree with you, Harrison. Brandon Ayuk is not overrated at all.
Yeah, Harrison is saying in the chat, Brandon Ayuk is overrated. So all you guys listening at home on the podcast, that's where Tony's getting that from. But yeah, Brandon Ayuk is a badass player. I'll just say that. But yeah, Tony, the Dallas Cowboys can't afford to go with another quarterback. Like, Dak is your guy. You're already talking about giving him an extension at the end of the year. Hey, you know who would have been great on your offense? Who would help that Dallas Cowboy offense? It's a guy named Amari Cooper that you traded for, what, a 4th-round pick last year? Imagine him. I don't know why you got rid of him. That was one of the dumbest trades that the Cowboys could do. And that Zeke deal's not looking so bright anymore as it was, but we all knew that comes with running backs. But the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of holes they need to fill, and they've had players playing above expectations the last couple seasons that make them better. I think make them better, or make them seem like a better team. But I've not bought into the Dallas Cowboys. But Jerry Jones will tell you that everybody on this team is the best at their position in the NFL, and that this team is a Super Bowl contending team.
Oh, Dallas Cowboys. I can't wait to see what they do in the draft, because I have a feeling they're going to be aggressive to get a cornerback. I think the first round the Cowboys are making a trade because Jerry wanted cornerback when they drafted Micah Parsons, and they didn't get one. And they definitely need a cornerback, and I could see them getting aggressive.
Well,
Let's stick
before we go on to the next one, Tony, Mike McCarthy's already lasted longer with the Dallas Cowboys than we all thought he would.
I was wrong. I was wrong about this one. I thought for sure Jerry was going to seize the opportunity to keep Kellen Moore or make a big splash and bring Sean Payton there. I was wrong. I mean, good for Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's a very good football coach who just says things that you don't you don't quite understand. You're like, where is this? What are you doing? What are you talking about? Like, do you understand what's going on around you in this moment right now? Like, they're asking you these questions and you seem completely unprepared, saying things that are just make you sound like a crazy person. Speaking of crazy,
Yeah.
I was watching the combine last night. Joe was watching the combine last night, and there were some guys that stood out and that were amazing athletes, and I expected it from the linebacker position. Some of these linebackers are running as fast or faster than wide receivers that are going to go in this draft, which is crazy. But I think the thing that really just jumped out to me was that D linemen are running the craziest 40 times I've ever seen. Like, years ago, these guys would have outrun wide receivers from like the 90s. I mean, not all of them, but their 40 times would have been there. And I get that these guys are training, Joe, for all of this. And as I'm sitting there, I remember the conversations that were being had in the season about the offensive linemen getting that fraction, that quarter of a second, half of a second jump into their kickback. Lane Johnson was accused of it. Mike McGlinchey was accused of starting early. Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs accused of getting out early. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? I don't hate it, because if you have to try and stop these guys that are getting these 10-second split times that are ridiculous, like the kinds of splits that we used to look at for players and we go, oh man, this is a special player. It's getting so common now that I don't even know what a special player looks like anymore. When you saw Joey Bosa having these split times 8, 9, 7, 8 years ago, you were like, oh wow, this guy's going to be special. Now 8 out of 10 are hitting that same 10-second split. You're like, is this guy a freakish athlete? And these offensive linemen maybe should get a little fraction of a head start as long as it's a clean get off.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And everybody's talking about Nolan Smith and how Nolan Smith ran a 4.39, and
Yeah.
they put him. They had to compare him to running backs and wide receivers basically yesterday because there was nobody else. So they had him like outbeat. You know how they put the side by side comparisons? They had him outrunning Stephon Diggs at the combine. But come on, when I look at, and I'm not taking anything away from him, right? I'm not taking anything away from him and what he ran and what he did. But the dude is also a small guy. He's also 238 pounds. So coming off the edge against one of those guys, he's going to need that speed because his size ain't going to be there. He's going to get knocked down by one of these offensive tackles. Now, the other guys that I'm impressed with, what was his name? I'm drawing it blank, Tony. Oh, Cansey. He's 6'1", 281 pounds, and he ran a 4.6. So these guys are coming at it. And I think there was another defensive tackle that they compared to Aaron. Was he from Pittsburgh too? That he compared to Aaron Donald. That was just as quick. But I'm like, damn. But at the end of the day, we get so caught up with the 40-yard dashes, right, and the 40-yard times that we're like, this guy's so damn fast. He's gonna move up, and it's because we're human. It's amazing to watch somebody that big and that fast move down the field, right? But at the end of the day, we can't let just like Dan Campbell said, we can't judge people from participating in drills in their pajamas to be like, oh, that guy's going to be a great guy, and then to feel free.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was harping more on not the speed. How often is a D lineman going to use a full 40-yard dash? If you have a defensive lineman who's using a 40-yard dash, that means you're getting gash for big plays. I'm focused more on how quick these guys are getting off in that first 10, and that is bad news for quarterback. That is unfair what can possibly happen to a quarterback in his blind side. What these D linemen are doing makes left tackle become even more of a valuable position because of how good these athletes are. Right tackle, the same way. Blocking tight ends, the schemes that are going to have to be switched up because of how fast these guys can get back there. There was another video that was on where they were talking about the fastest sacks. And some of these guys are getting back to the quarterback with blockers in front of them in the NFL, and they're recording sacks in under 2 seconds. That's insane that you can have people that are able to move this well. And the thing with Nolan Smith is similar to what they talked about with Micah Parsons. When you have that kind of motor and you have that kind of ability from the edge, if he puts on 10 pounds and gets to 245, 250, and how strong he is, the Cansey guy, he's built like just different. The body type, he's 6'1" and he's compacted into just solid muscle. And I think that he could be a really nice player at the NFL level. But Nolan Smith, if you can get him on the edge and get him 25 to 30 pass rush attempts a game, I mean, we're talking about the kind of speed of like Dwight Freeney and Von Miller and Micah Parsons. Like, that's different, and they can be game changers. I wouldn't be mad if the Chargers took a shot on him at 21 and said, oh, we're bringing in this guy, and we're going to allow him on third down to just go get the quarterback. Mac, you're out there for run defense and some occasional blitzing, but we're bringing in Bosa and Smith on. That's it.
Yeah, and one of the things I look like, okay, we all look at the 40-yard times and stuff like that. I like the 3-cone drill, Tony. I like especially for big offensive offense and defensive linemen. I like that. And one guy that stood out to me, Tony, and he probably will go top 10, right? Somewhere around the top 10 is Van Ness, Lucas Van Ness. Like did you see his cone drill? He did. I think he ran it in 7 seconds, Tony. 7, a little bit over 7 seconds. But that right there is good to me, and I'm like, woo! I like watching the cone drill. When I coach kids up, that's one of the drills that I actually teach them is the cone drill. So I like watching those and seeing what those guys do. And another guy that impressed me in the cone drill is a linebacker, Jack Campbell.
Yeah, Jack Campbell did look like he looked like Rudy Rudiger on steroids. You know what? He looked like Captain America had already gotten the treatment where he became Chris Evans. Like, I would love to see a picture of Jack Campbell as like a freshman at high school, because he probably just looked like not what he looks like now. And he looked fantastic. Lucas Van Ness is even more intriguing. Last night they were talking about the fact that he was a high school hockey player. As somebody who played hockey is a tremendous transition for increasing balance and athleticism in the NFL, because of all the different things that you have to do on a pair of hockey skates. When you're skating backwards, being able to open and pivot on 2 blades, like, hockey is just a tremendously difficult sport to be essentially running around on a sheet of ice on 2 thin blades. And I just think the dynamic can transfer nicely. The problem is that you don't get a ton of hockey players transferring their skill from hockey to football. So when they were showing him out there, I was like, oh, this guy, he might not have been a great player in the NHL, but he's somebody that could have played and could have skated with those guys. And the physicality is important. But if he is physical and not afraid of it, then he can go to the NFL, and his all of his skill set can transfer to being an elite edge rusher. Like, I think by draft time, Van Ness is probably going to be drafted somewhere in the top 15. And somebody's going to get themselves a day one. He feels like a Detroit Lion too. Like,
oh, dang it.
Right?
You're going to put him and Aiden Hutchinson together? Woo-hoo.
Yeah. And then they also have James Houston, who was spectacular towards the end of the year for them too. So I think that the Lions probably, in my estimation, need to go cornerback. There's some really good cornerbacks that they could bring in, but I could see Dan Campbell really liking the way he plays football from the Midwest, from in the Iowa area. Like,
so they broke down. They do the 40, they do the 3-cone, they do other stuff, and they do the 10-yard. What is it? 10-yard sprint or whatever, split? Or what do they call it?
The 10-yard split.
So most of those guys, most of these big old dudes, Tony, are getting the 10 yards, which is, I think that's pretty good of what you would think a quarterback would be standing or scrambling around. To get 10 yards, they're getting there in 1.5 seconds or a little bit right there. Like, it's under 2 seconds. Almost every single one of them was in that time frame. And of course, like Nolan Smith, Nolan Smith got 1.52. He was the quickest one. So, I mean, they're quarterbacks, like if you don't think you have time yet now, wait till these faster, bigger dudes are entering the NFL. Woo!
Yeah, and I think that we're seeing that, Joe. We're seeing that's why Austin Eckler caught 106 passes or 109 passes. We're seeing the need for running backs where you have to be able to catch the ball because you're going to be a check down. Because if you run a full, you know, if you don't leave it in a tight end for protection, and you have a tight end who's running a route, and you have two receivers, and you have your back going out, you are going to need to have an outlet to get rid of that ball within 2 seconds. If what you see is, oh, my right tackle just got smoked by somebody who I know is going to bring some heat, and I need to check the ball down. So we're seeing that extension of, I guess the ramifications of the more athletic players causing for more checkdowns, higher completion rates. It all just like works itself out. Like it all just goes like devaluing the run game. We're seeing less impact on the linebacker, market and vice versa. Like if you're a running back that can only pound the football,
yeah,
you're almost a dinosaur at this point.
Yeah, we've seen Derrick Henry have to change his game a little bit. He went from not catching the ball a lot out of the backfield to doing it now and catching those screen passes. So even the best running backs are having to make changes to their game because, like you said, if you're not catching the damn ball, you're worthless to our offense now.
Yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the combine and just hearing the stories and it's right. Like how many job interviews would be interesting to watch? I don't want to watch some guy who just graduated top of his law school, at Smith and Jackson, like interviewing to become part of a legal, team. I'm not interested in that.
You want to work here at McDonald's? What's your 40 time?
Yeah,
I need to know because we need to get those orders to the drive-through window quick. That's what you just want skills. I don't know. There's Domino's Pizza does a competition where I watch, in Vegas every year where they do how many pizzas you can make. So anything that does with competition, people will watch.
I wanted to compete in that. As somebody who worked for Domino's, I always wanted to compete in that, or I wanted to compete in the national grocery bagging competition, where they grade you on speed and how well you were able to put the groceries, because there is a right way to put the groceries in there. Let's get to a couple.
Before we move on from this, Tony, I have one other thing, and maybe you didn't bring it up. We didn't bring it up. Maybe you don't have time for it. But NFL coaches, it's a trend this year that they're not even watching these drills anymore. That the scouts are, but the coaches are like, we came for the interviews and we're going to watch everything. We're going to watch the tape. And Dan Campbell came out and said that too. We're watching tape. We judge them off the field. We came in for the interviews just to meet the players, and that's it. So are these drills just for the people, like for the average fan like me and you, that we just, hey, we get off watching these guys and it's just good TV for the NFL? Or do you think they actually mean something?
So I think what happened is people got away a little bit from trusting what they're seeing on the film. They were like, oh, but we saw this person who went out here and he did X, Y, and Z on the field, but then the person from the smaller school came and everything they did athletically, and they started having that like, oh, if I got my hands on somebody who's that athletic, we could really change him. Instead of understanding like football is still, it's so quick and it's so instinctual that you have to trust that even though somebody may not be as gifted athletically, did you watch them play college football and dominate? Because most likely they will get to the NFL and, if healthy, continue to dominate. So I do think that they're getting back to that, but they also have such large staffs. You have everything on camera. You have they were introducing tracers last night on these drills. So now you can see when they're doing sort of, I forget the name of the drill, but the motion drill where the coach is telling them like shuffle, 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 back, forward. All right, go. Like he's telling them, they're showing how straight these guys are able to keep their balance and shuffle. Now, this is another thing that people are going to be preparing at pretty soon. When you look at these guys, they look robotic and like soldiers at this thing. They are so dialed in to what is about to happen because it is so impactful. But I think that it's impactful, but more so we need to get back to, and the coaches are realizing this, what are we seeing from these guys when they played meaningful college football and less about what they're doing in their Tommy Johns? Because Zach Wilson can go out there and dazzle and do all of this stuff, but Brock Purdy went on a stretch because they put together a good football team and had a fundamental system around him. Like, I'm not saying that Purdy would have succeeded with the Jets, but it looks like he would have been a little bit better off. Like the Jets would have been a little bit better off with Purdy than they were with Wilson.
Or if you put Justin Fields on the Jets,
It looks like they would have been a little better off. At least they would have had the athleticism. Like at least we're in that neighborhood, right? Of like, we saw this person dominate in college football. We didn't really see Zach Wilson at BYU dominate. And I'm sorry that I'm singling him out. There is a lot of players.
no, but you see it every year, and we talk about it. There's always like in December, there's always like, this is the guy. This is the number one pick in the NFL draft. Then we start getting into the combine and all that stuff. And the guy this year is Will Anderson, somebody that you and I both love. We both love Will Anderson. But where's he going, Tony? He's starting to drop now, right? All of a sudden, Jalen Carter's up there. All of a sudden, these other guys are getting above him. Will Anderson did nothing at the combine but make himself look good again. He went out there, ran the numbers that we needed to see, but he's going to be one of those guys that teams are like, but because one of these other guys like Lucas Van Ness and all them are going to be like, oh, look at his numbers. Oh, we didn't see those. But then you just trust, like you said, trust the film that you have in front of you, because what do you grow up? When you grow up in football and listening to coaches, what do they always say, Tony? The tape doesn't lie. Tape doesn't lie.
Yeah, I think what's happening, Joe, is I thought that Miles Murphy and Keon White had better showings. Like they put up more sort of wow numbers for their size. And I don't think Will Anderson hurt himself, Joe, but he didn't have that wow moment. He didn't have that Jordan Davis shatter the internet moment that he needed to have to be considered, I think, for a top 5 pick in the draft. And I think once draft rolls around, Joe, we're going to see a lot of these desperate teams that think that they know and have identified the quarterback trading up within the top 5, 6 picks, because even the Lions, who pick at 6 or something, and even the Seahawks, they're going, we're interested in quarterback. Shut up. No, you're not. These teams are, I will not buy that the Lions or the Seahawks are interested in drafting a quarterback with one of those picks. What they are interested in doing is trading down with teams that are a little more desperate. Please let Anderson or Carter fall to 7.
I'm saying the same thing. Let them fall. Let them fall.
Omar, I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope that you guys draft Anthony Richardson. That is what I wish for the Raiders. Omar, that's what I wish for you.
Anyways, let's move on. There's so much draft. We could talk about the draft all damn day, and I'll be stuck talking about it, especially with the Raiders at number 7 of how much stuff. But let's move on, Tony.
We will. Yes, we'll have a lot more draft talk coming up in shows. Let's talk about Rashad Bateman responding to comments from Eric DeCosta. I believe that's his name, the GM for the Ravens, coming out and saying that we don't have any good receivers, which I was just like, what are you doing? Like, the way he worded it, he made it sound like it was a trash heap there with the Ravens, and that he's taking this blame. And it sounded like he was trying to overcompensate to, saying, hey, Lamar, I hear you. I let you down, and I get how bad our receivers are. And I've talked to everybody about this. We don't know if the Ravens haven't had good wide receiver play for a couple of reasons. Because they refused to play a pro-style offense there because it was winning with what the Ravens were doing, which is fine. You're winning games. You're competing. Lamar Jackson's winning MVPs. but you don't know what Lamar Jackson's ability is to throw the football. Rashad Bateman is a very good wide receiver. Now, he has had some injury concerns, and now more things have come out about the strength and conditioning guy that was fired there. I don't know what his name is,
Yeah.
but several people have talked mess about him. Even Judon, who left and went to the Patriots, had some outgoing messages for him. Bateman, and like has even said in there, keep us healthy, right? But my thing was this, like, I'm happy that Rashad Bateman responded to this because he is a first round pick and he has shown glimpses of being able to be a very good wide receiver. But if you don't throw the ball, Hollywood Brown even said, I didn't want out because I don't believe in Lamar Jackson. I want out because the offense isn't wide receiver friendly because we're not taking shots. They have a top 2-3 tight end in the league in Mark Andrews. Like, they've had guys there that can go and could allow Lamar Jackson to do this. They've had a very good, decent offensive line, but they just never were running a system that allowed us to see or know what it could be or push Rashad Bateman to see if he's a legit number one wide receiver that they drafted in the first round. Now they bring in Todd Monken. He's somebody that I think is going to open up the offense. If Lamar Jackson and them, they patch everything up and he gets the money and he's there, I think we're going to see Lamar Jackson play a little bit closer to the prototypical drop back, throw it 35 times a game quarterback, which to me will be interesting and fun. I can't wait to see that. I believe in Lamar, but I still would like to see it.
Yeah, and the Ravens have been under a lot of heat, Tony. Not only Bateman calling them out, but like you said, Judon and other players coming out talking about the training staff there and the stuff that happened, and people blaming the training staff for their injuries or treating rookies differently than they treat veterans, and making rookies come out there with serious injuries just because they might not make the team. But Bateman's correct. When your own general manager is out there saying, we don't have. If I had the answer of how to draft a great wide receiver, then we'd have some good ones here. Like, we're lacking all these guys. We don't draft great. Like Bateman, like Tony, we love Bateman coming out of college. We loved him. Even Wallace, they have a Taylor Wallace on their team, or
Love him.
on their team. Like, those are the guys that we liked. Marquise Brown was a top wide receiver coming out of college. Like, you put these guys in position, but like you said, the offense wasn't designed to go to them, and it wasn't there. So Bateman is saying, like, hey, don't be blaming us. Blame the guy that did this to us, who's now out of here. And I don't know if he's talking about the training staff or if he's talking about the offensive coordinator. But either way, he's talking about blame somebody else besides the players that are here putting it on the line. Because Bateman was a top receiver this year, and he was playing very well until he got hurt.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now. If the Ravens are out, if Eric DeCosta's feelings are hurt by what Bateman said, Chargers will give up a third-round pick. I hope they would, at least. If you told me that Rashad Bateman was coming to the Chargers for a third-rounder, even a second-rounder, I'd be okay with it. Like, he is a fast receiver who can get deep, and it is exactly what the Chargers could use to add another dimension to the offense. So if you're giving up on him and you think he's garbage, send him out west.
I don't see any other team. There's a lot of teams out there that would go after Bateman. And you say, hey, Bateman's on the market because we're mad that he called us out. Hey, if you don't consider Bateman a great wide receiver, and that's basically what he's saying, is he's not a good wide receiver, then trade him, because there's at least, I would say, at least 20 other teams out there that would take Bateman on their team.
Oh, the Bears? You don't think the Bears would be like, hey, we got space for you here. Come on down.
I think the Raiders would find a spot for him, even with the guys that they have right now.
Yep. Patriots, I think, would be in that market. Yes.
Have you seen the free agent class of wide receivers this year? They're not great. Bateman would probably be at the very top of that.
He definitely would be. Joe. I want the Chargers to sign Darius Slayton so bad. Like, if I could just talk to them for 5 minutes and I would just say, go give Darius Slayton 3 years, $20 million. Like, people might make fun of you.
Let's go call Tony Tucker right now.
Yes, just sign this young man, 26 years old, and he can still fly down the field, and he's reliable. Just please. Whew. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Ravens because I think all of this is really happening, Joe, because the quarterback it's unsettled what is happening there, and both sides are trying to figure it out. And so the GM maybe said something I think he wishes he could take back. Like, I think if you really asked him, like, "Hey, could I reword what I'm saying there on my errors and still try to sound, you know, complimentary to Lamar Jackson in some way?" Like, I think he would want to do over. So that was a contentious beef. Now let's go to one that I think is a little more lighthearted, even though AJ Brown is talking tough out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I haven't really been following this. Mike and Joe do a good job of keeping me up to date about what is going on. And I think that the video that Juju made, Juju is in his lane. He is more of an influencer and has shown us that those things off the field are just as important, if maybe not more important to him than what's on the field. Like his brand, putting himself out there as an entertainer seems to be more important for him than football is at some points. AJ Brown, on the other hand, AJ, why are you even entertaining this? Like, nobody thinks, like, if you don't respond or act tough that you're lesser of a man, and you are by far the better football player. Like, AJ Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the league. We just saw it last year. He was in Tennessee where it was run heavy, and then he goes to Philadelphia and he's even better. So, like, where do you land on this? Are you team AJ, team Juju? Do you not care? Are you just here for all the entertainment? Where are you at?
On this one, I'm team Juju because AJ, every time that you respond to her or one of your Eagles teammates respond to what Juju's doing, you're just coming off to me as a poor sport that you lost the Super Bowl and you're pissed off. And that's it. Juju, and I made a TikTok about this when Juju first came out and did his thing earlier on Valentine's Day when he posted that thing about being held, that you can hold me for Valentine's Day or whatever, Bradley with the Bradbury. So that was a funny thing. Juju, like I said Juju is an entertainer. He understands the business. He's young. He doesn't care. He's looking outside of the NFL after this, and that's what most people do, Tony, is you're not going to be in the NFL for long. Juju's building his own market, so when he's done in the NFL, he's still going to have something else to fall back on. And it's funny that A.J. Brown is even entertaining this and getting pissed off. Like, dude, like, just back off. And then you called him. Like, A.J. Brown, on Valentine's Day, you came out and called him TikTok boy. You got pissed off. So everybody was waiting for Juju to come back, and he came back with a great way that his dad planted it in his head, that, you know, that little thing that he was the TikTok boy. So Juju took the joke and basically made fun of himself, and you got pissed off even more at him. Like, Juju's winning this whole argument. Everything that Juju's doing just to get a reaction from A.J. Brown is winning in my eyes. Like, he's winning.
He is winning this because he is being lighthearted. Like, he's being authentic to himself. Like, AJ Brown is talking about fighting and swinging on him because he's upset that he's doing these things where it's not, to me, none of it's been like overly disrespectful. The thing to James Bradbury, I don't even think AJ Brown calling him TikTok boy is disrespectful in any way. It's just words. But when you come with like the aggression of it, it's just going to keep feeding Juju. And it's not like you're not going to win. Even if you were to like fight him or jump him in some way, you're the one who's going to get in trouble. That's going to jeopardize your eligibility to be with your teammates and on the field. The best thing that AJ Brown can do is just continue to be the dominant player that he is and just push out the noise that Juju is essentially an afterthought as an NFL wide receiver. Like, Juju is on the market, and we're talking about how Rashad Bateman, who hasn't even done that much in the NFL, would be a more tempting free agent than Juju, who just came off winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And that's another thing that the Eagles have been throwing out there is like, Juju running his mouth, the TikTok boy running his mouth, and all he did was coast his way to a championship. Well, at the end of the day, Juju could still hold up his finger with that Super Bowl ring and be like, I don't care what I did. But I mean, he did have 7 catches in the Super Bowl. Like he didn't just not show up in the Super Bowl. He still had 7 catches, and didn't he have a touchdown?
No, I think he got pushed out inside the 5.
So it was right there. But he had 7 catches. It was like he did good in the second half. He showed up, and he didn't have a 1,000-yard season, but he was there. Juju started to come on towards the end of the season, and you could say what you want, and you could say people don't deserve the ring that they have. Like you could talk about Melvin Gordon riding on the bench of him. But at the end of the day, they're Super Bowl champion, and A.J. Brown has to respect Juju and his Super Bowl ring.
See, that's where I disagree. I don't think he has to respect Juju at all. I think that he has to accept the fact that he lost and he doesn't have a ring. But the Chiefs still win that Super Bowl without Juju, right? Like,
I don't have them. Yeah.
I can't imagine that they would have been hurt anymore if they would have just had Justin Watson in the role where they had Juju playing. Like, it's not a fall off.
Super Bowl TikTok creator, Super Bowl champion TikTok creator Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, AJ will just be better off. Omar,
what's up with Chiefs and TikTok? That's what it is. Chiefs and TikTok. You got Patrick Mahomes' brother, and now you got Juju Smith.
Well, they're in one of the flyover states, and they just want to make sure that they're not being forgotten or recognized. I want to circle back real quick because Omar has been in here putting great comments in, and I missed this one during the Lamar Jackson, where he talks about the reason why the Ravens are a rushing team. I think that that's more of an organizational, like philosophical, like we are defense and run the football, and that was. The offensive coordinator they had was the offensive coordinator with Colin Kaepernick, and that was also a very, like, run the ball. We don't design anything, like, really innovative, or we don't push the ball down the field. We don't know what Lamar Jackson is capable of. Do I think Lamar Jackson could be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady from the pocket? No. But I think he could be an effective thrower of the football, especially because he's going to see a lot of one-on-one coverage because you have to keep somebody there to spy on his ability to take off and hurt you. So why aren't they designing more plays that look like it's going to be an RPO and it's not, and it really is just, hey, you've identified now where you have the one-on-one coverage. We're going to give this look right here. They're going to see it. Now we have one-on-one, and that you can beat people big down the field. He doesn't need to be, an elite passer. He doesn't need to be a top 3 thrower of the football in the league. He can be in the category where Dak is, where there might be Lamar Jackson having 12, 15 interceptions on the season. But throwing the football more is going to help the team. It's also going to keep him healthier. That's the thing. You're asking Lamar Jackson to play quarterback and running back. You can't do that in the NFL. You cannot play 17 to 20 games, which is what you need to win the Super Bowl, playing both of those positions. And you cannot have a long career playing both of those positions. So I just don't think we know if Lamar Jackson can be a top 12 or 15 passer. That's all. If you yourself have already looked at Lamar Jackson and said, I don't think he can pass in the league, then that's your opinion and you're entitled to that. I'm not going to debate you on that. For me personally, I don't think we know if Lamar Jackson is an elite passer or can join even in that passable category where you're in the top 15 of guys that are throwing the ball 30 plus times a game. There we go.
Well, we know one guy that could pass the ball in this league, Tony.
We do. His name is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. I want to know, did Aaron Rodgers, when he was in his darkness retreat, did he see a black cat? Did he see a panther? Because Frank Reich needs to know. He called. The report that I saw this morning was that the Panthers called or reached out to the Packers and said, hey, what does it look like to bring him here? I've seen other reports where Aaron Rodgers understands that he's going to have to do some contract renegotiating, restructuring. I don't believe Harrison is with us in this chat anymore, but Aaron Rodgers and DJ Moore would be a spectacular combination right there. And I think that there is a way, and with the aggressiveness of the Panthers owner, where they could be trying to find trade partners to bring in another big time receiver. I could see the Panthers reaching out to the Cardinals and saying, "Hey, what is it going to also take? Would a second this year and a second next year get DeAndre Hopkins to Carolina so that he has that going for him?" I think the run game would be nice. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers in Carolina?
Well, the easier route. I mean that's the easy division. It's to go down there and you'll be able to win that division, and it's probably a pretty good team. You have a defense already set up, and I think Frank Wright will work good with them. So I think it would be a great landing spot for him. But do you really think that Aaron Rodgers would want to go to Carolina? I mean, come on, seeing him in the blue like that, I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers is looking for something else. I think Aaron Rodgers is looking for that stage in New York or something like that. I don't know. This is just my opinion. At the end of the day, I believe he's going to retire. I think when he went into that black hole that he saw retirement, and he just like milking it as much as he can and doing the spotlight, and then he's just going to be like, you know what, I'm walking away from the game of football. But I mean, as the Carolina Panthers, I got to give respect to the Carolina Panthers, because why not call? Why not call every team to find out, hey, is this guy available? Why not be the guy and be like, because you never know. Carolina was in on the Watson. They're in on anybody. They should be calling the Ravens too and be like, hey, what's up with Lamar? You guys haven't signed him yet. We'll take him over here. They should check in on every quarterback spot, and that's what every team should do. You should check on every high-profile player just to make sure that you're not going to be the one that misses out on.
I couldn't agree more, Joe. I think that it would be foolish to not make a phone call. When I read the reports that the Panthers weren't interested in meeting with Derek Carr, I was like, that's foolish. There's no reason that you wouldn't do it. It is your job to field the best, most competitive team for the other players on your roster, for your fan base, for everything. Like, you should be trying to do this. I don't believe Aaron Rodgers wants to go play for the Panthers at all. Like, I think Rodgers, there's a few destinations. I still just have this weird feeling that the Dolphins last minute are going to come in and say, what's it going to take, Green Bay? Like, we'll give you all sorts of stuff. Like,
well, apparently, if you want Aaron Rodgers, you have to call Brandon Marshall of your GM and tell him that you want him. I don't know if you saw that Brandon Marshall came out and said 4 teams have reached out to me saying that they want Aaron Rodgers. It's like, really? Brandon Marshall, like an NFL GM is calling you to tell you that they want Aaron Rodgers on their team?
I like Brandon Marshall, so I'm not going to throw any shade his way. But, yeah, I don't think he's the gatekeeper for Rodgers or any of that. Like, you'd have better
talk has come out, Tony, and just today alone, and they said the betting favorite odds on oddcheckers.com are the Raiders at -200 still to get Aaron Rodgers. The Jets are +140. The Titans are +900. So even with the Raiders coming out and saying, hey, we're not going after Aaron Rodgers, they're still the favorites to get him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's kind of I cannot see Devontae Adams being happy that he shows up and you trade away Derek Carr, and then you're going to go into next year with like re-signing Stidham and a rookie or some combination of like Carson Wentz and a rookie. Like, I can't see Devontae Adams saying, I'm going to use my last couple of good years in the NFL helping the Raiders rebuild. Maybe. He did just relocate his family. Like, I think he just really is saying, like, do everything you can to bring in a quarterback so we can have a legit chance in this division.
Yeah, and I don't think you can't tell me any team, and just like we said about the Panthers, you can't tell me that any team sitting there going, we're out on Aaron Rodgers. Nope. If there's a chance we're getting Aaron Rodgers, we're still not taking him. Bullshit. You can't sit here and tell me maybe there's some like the Buffalo Bills and the Chargers. Of course, they're not going to be doing it. But every other team that has no quarterback or has a quarterback that they're kind of iffy on, like the Miami Dolphins, like you said, you're sitting there and you're going to tell me that the Green Bay Packers are going to call you and they'll say, hey, you know what? We need to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. We're tired of him. We're going to actually move on and go with Jordan Love. So, hey, you want Aaron Rodgers for a second-round pick and something else? You're going to tell me that you're going to say, you know what? We're good. We're good right here. Like any NFL teams, they're going to say that?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope the Raiders fumble this. I really do. I really
I'm not
do.
just talking about the Raiders, though. I'm talking about any team.
Yeah. But I personally have stake in the Raiders fumbling it. And every conversation between us is me chuckling, starting with laughter. Catching up on the comments here, Omar wants to throw a little shout out for the champ, Brian Edwards. He's a hero of Joe Morley. And then says Mariota combo with a Hayden Hooker combo right there.
Okay,
I welcome that too. That to me is
I'm sorry, Omar, but Raider fans are pissing me off with the Mariota. Mariota sucks. Mariota sucks. Stop. He sucks. He sucks. He had a shot to beat out Derek Carr. And guess what? He never did. He never did. Then he couldn't even beat out a rookie in Atlanta. So come on. Mariota is not the answer for any NFL team.
There we go. Just so we can clip this up later. Marcus Mariota and Hayden Hooker. Let's go, Raider Nation. Let's go. Let's see that. 2023 Raiders. I can't wait to see him on the program. That would be fantastic. Also, Zero stopping by. Everything's good. Hope all is well with you. How are the fingers? I know you had a little bit of an accident playing VR and smashed the fingers. Joe and I have reached the end of the show here. Leave the comments open for one last second and just say, if you are new to MJT football, please consider subscribing, joining the conversation as we talk about football year round here on this channel and on this podcast. If you're listening to the audio version on whatever your preferred platform is, head on over to YouTube and join us there. We got a comment from Zero. Let's hear. What is it, Joe? What does he say?
I love promoting this channel. Y'all own the business, and I spin the signs in front of the building.
There it is. I would love that. As soon as we get our shop set up and we have something,
you got to like throw it in the air too, and then catch it.
Yeah, there's going to be a tryout. There's going to be a little bit of a sign spinner combine. So you're not locked in for the job, but you are a Vegas favorite to land that job, Zero. You're a hero.
Since I'm a Raider fan, breaking news coming out: Josh Jacobs will be franchise tagged if the Raiders do not make an agreement before the deadline.
There you go. There you go. More contention within the Raiders. I love it. That's so great. Have a pissed off running back who didn't get a fifth-year option, and now you're putting a franchise tag on him. You run him into the ground and send him out into the world at 26 with broken knees and a bad hip.
And then I also read that since we're at the end of the show, I'm just going to throw a little bit of tidbits in there. Daniel Jones and the Giants are making progress towards a contract. So all the reports out there, that are saying all this other stuff, supposedly they are making a little bit of progress towards a contract. If it gets done or not, I don't know.
Yeah, Omar, you're right. It is a business, and I get it. And they're doing the smart thing, and they should franchise tag him. It doesn't mean he has to like it, and it doesn't mean he has to show up for camp and get integrated into a new system, potentially, like not a new system, but in getting to know a new quarterback and all of that. And I just like chaos within the Raiders organization. It's funny to me. The Daniel Jones situation, Joe, is what the GM said. They don't want him there. It feels like the ownership group is saying, figure it out. Figure it out. Yeah. And the GM and they're saying, wait, we could get potentially Aaron Rodgers. We could get Derek Carr's better. We could draft one of these rookies. Like, why are we being saddled with this guy for 4 to 5 more years?
Yeah, and I think once Daniel Jones came back and he was like, hey, I want that big contract. You're like, okay, dude, like, we were cool with you coming back at a cheaper deal, but we're not cool with you at that high of a price. We're going to find somebody else. And like you said, Tony, why aren't the Giants going after a guy like Derek Carr?
I thought the two places I thought were the Panthers and the Giants. So, yeah. Zero, did you see me? I put my seatbelt on for you. Have a great day, brother.
Wear your seatbelt.
It's a fantastic one. I don't know why every team that needs a quarterback wouldn't be looking into Derek Carr. And Brian Dable in his second year after proving what he could do with Daniel Jones, proving that what happened with Josh Allen wasn't a fluke. And Frank Reich is magical with offense and quarterbacks, and he would be able to have a fresh start there. Those are the two places, if I'm Derek Carr, I would seriously consider. Now, I think Carolina seems like a more family-friendly, an opportunity to put family and God and all those things mixed in with football. I think it's probably a little bit harder to do that in places like New York, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited about free agency, Joe.
Here's the last thing I have for you, Tony.
Yeah.
NFL draft for NFL news segment, our little thing. NFL draft. I liked how they moved the quarterbacks and the wide receivers to the weekend, where more people are going to be off work and be able to watch it and stuff. Bryce Young, are you worried about him and his weigh-in of how much he's going to weigh?
Don't care at all. Excuse me. Here's the thing with Bryce Young. He is already put on tape, proven big games, what he is and who he is. And if you get him into the right system, he's going to have success at the next level. Is he going to have, can you predict out, kind of early crazy success that we've seen from some of these other rookies? No, you can't, but you can't do that with anybody. So, he's the one that I've watched and been like, oh, if you're going to start somebody day one, he's your guy. But I wouldn't be moving a bunch of draft capital to go get him. I'd be just as happy getting Will Levis or CJ Stroud a little bit later. That's how close it is. I'm not moving up to get him like I would have Trevor Lawrence, like I would have, some of the other players that have been in the draft. I can't sit here and say that I would have moved up to get Justin Herbert. I had Justin Herbert as my favorite quarterback in that draft class because of what he had at his disposal at his university. It's the same reason that I love Will Levis this year. It's the same reason why I love Desmond Ridder last year. All of these people talking, Joe, about the Falcons should give up on Desmond Ridder. Why not give him the keys? If it doesn't work out this year, next year you got Caleb Williams and May, and you can go get your quarterback then. But you just used a pick on this guy. He's been in your system for 1 year. Come on.
Yeah, and I think, and I talked about this the other day on one of my lives, that we rush these rookies so much nowadays. We want instant gratification from every single guy that we get drafted, and we're not giving these people the time to develop, and we're seeing it as you move on. Jalen Hurts was thrown under the bus, and he was like, "Oh, we might get rid of this guy." And then as you give him more time, look what he's doing. His third year in the league, he's in the Super Bowl. When they were benching him for what did Doug Peterson bench him for?
I got you. Are you ready? Nate Sudfeld.
Nate Sudfeld.
Who I think is fourth string quarterback on a team. All right, let's get out of here. 0, given my background love. And if you're listening to the audio version, you got to come and see what it is. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of Charger stuff. And
it's not MJT football no more. It's just JT football.
He edited you out of the show title. All right, let's play this music. Let's get out of here. Hope everybody has a wonderfully blessed day, and we will see you next week? Question mark? Who knows? We need to get
I gotta hit the camera.
and smash.
Right.